all seeing and dealing with what's going on in the country right now, and this is the Mesa Police Department's opportunity to give you our stance on that. Not as I've told many of you, this is not a knee-jerk reaction. There's a lot of things that have happened in the last 2 weeks in this country that are really driving this story. This is a project that we started 6 months ago, based on information coming from Washington, and we wanted to take that to the next level, and this is our opportunity. So we have several speakers that are going to come up, the mayor and of course the chief, and Deanna Villanueva from our community who are going to speak to you, and we'll get that going. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mayor John Giles.
Thank you. I am here and with my fellow council members Thompson, Kavanaugh, and Luna, to endorse what you're going to hear from Chief Mesa and from the Mesa Police Department. We're very proud of our police department. We consider them an elite organization, and I think the report that you're going to hear about today is one great example of that. The work product that came out of the President's task force is great, and it's very important. But I'm afraid that I hope that the entire country embraces it the way that Mesa, Arizona has. So I'm proud of Chief Mesa for understanding that this is a significant piece of work and that it raises a critical issue across the United States. But even though the challenges that we face on these topics are really very broad in scope, they are national issues, the solutions to these problems are found at the local level. So unless cities do, like Chief Mesa has done, and take up these recommendations from this task force and ask ourselves very hard questions. How can we rise to this level? How can we address the important questions that are raised in this report? Unless that happens in every city in the United States, a real opportunity will have been lost. So we are here as a city council, again, just to express our admiration and our support for our police administration, and to thank them for incorporating this document in such a fine way into the way that we're going to police going forward. Mesa, Arizona is a big city. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we have problems. And thus far, we've been able to stay ahead of the curve, and that's really because of the great leadership that we've had in our police department. Being sensitive to community issues is not a new issue with the Mesa Police Department. We've had the forums, reached out to ethnic communities and faith communities, all the communities we can find in the city going back years. And so again, congratulations to our police department for being sensitive and for understanding the importance of this. I'm looking forward. If you haven't read the report, ladies and gentlemen, it's important that you do so. You'll be very impressed with the quality of the product coming out of the White House, but you'll be equally impressed with the way the city of Mesa has responded to it and incorporated that into our organization. So again, congratulations, Chief. Congratulations to the Mesa Police Department. As a council and as a city, we are committed to providing you with the resources that you need to make this document come to life and to have the personnel and the equipment that you need to continue to be an elite department. So thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing the report and seeing it incorporated into the streets of Mesa, Arizona. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, thank you for all to be here today. This is it's a proud moment in the fact that we accomplished something that we set out to do that's very, very important to our communities and to this police department. I want to thank everybody, all the community members that are here today. It's great to see you here, and a lot of you helped in this project, City Council and City Management that really gave us the support to do this, and then everybody in the police department that worked on this project. It was not an easy task, but I'll get into that here in a bit. Just to give you a little background on what is the President's Report on 21st Century Policing. It was a report that was published last year that it was put together as a collaborative effort of police leaders throughout the country, community leaders throughout the country, youth leaders, technical leaders, and non-governmental entities that came together and published the President's Report on Task Force on 21st Century Policing. and it gave 151 recommendations for police departments across the country on how you do business in today's world. The product that was put out through the task force was incredible. And all the public meetings I go to, I ask people, who's read it? And maybe a hand or two goes up. I encourage everyone to read the report. If you want to know how to police in the 21st century, it's in there. It is an incredible blueprint on how we should be doing policing in today's world. But a blueprint is useless unless you build something with it. And really that's what we set out to do about 6 months ago. I was in a conference with the major city chiefs, major cities throughout the country, and we were doing a lot of talking about this report and how good it was and all the recommendations. And I left at that meeting with, well, what are we doing with it? You know, it's one thing to read it, but how do we implement that into our police departments and our communities? So I came back and I challenged my group to, hey, let's take this report and address every single recommendation and every single action item in that report. And let's do our report card on what our police department is about and how we're doing business. So every police department in this country has to look in the mirror and ask themselves, how are we doing business? And the President's report tells you how to do that. So the purpose was to give our reflection of how we do business. And we found things in the report that we do very well, and we found things that we need to improve on. And that's really the intent of our response report. Now, the process of how we did it, not easy. We had we utilized project management principles, and we assigned Chioma Wabeke as our project manager, and really she led the entire, she built teams to make sure that we did it. She interviewed, we interviewed community members, many of you that are sitting here in this room. We interviewed council members, we interviewed folks from the community, interviewed people within the police department to get perspectives on how we do things here in Mesa. So it was challenging, but the group did an outstanding job. I actually presented our response report to the White House about 3 weeks ago, and the gentleman who I presented to said this is the most comprehensive response in the country. And I challenge anyone, thank you. And that's what's important. I didn't want to just write the good things that we do. We needed to put in there the things that we have challenges and what we do better. What did we find? Well, I encourage everyone, we are going to release this digitally, and we do have some hard copies here. I encourage you to read our response, because every single recommendation and action item is in our report, and it illustrates what we do or what we are going to do. And what did we find? We found that we do things very well. We found that our community engagement is outstanding. Our community forums are strong, but we need to continue to foster those. If you know anything about building trust in a relationship, think about your own relationship. It's an everyday item. If you neglect your relationship, you can lose trust. So it's an everyday thing that we need to address. What did we find that we need to improve on? And there's several things, and I encourage you to read it. The way that our department collects data, our open source initiatives, we need to improve on that. We need to improve on how we collect data on traffic stops, arrest. So, you know, like I said before, the reflection of who we are, how do we need to improve? The one thing that Detective Berry mentioned, that this is not a knee-jerk reaction to something that happened a week ago, 2 weeks ago. The President's task force put this together because there's a need. There's a need on how we police in the United States. We put this together, like I said, about 6 months ago. This is something that is a living, breathing document. It doesn't mean that this report is the end-all of how we're doing business. This report is a guideline, something that we will address tomorrow, next month, next year, to ensure that we are continually striving to improve in how we do business. So I'm very, very proud of that. At this point, I want to introduce one of our community members, community leaders, who's very important in this project, Diana Villanueva Sasuera. If you want to come up and say a few words.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to Chief Mesa and the support of City Council for Chief Mesa and his team, and really the incredible work that they've done today. You just have to watch the news, and across the country, we're struggling. Our communities are struggling to have a positive working relationship with public safety and first responders, and we've seen unfortunate incidences here in our own state and here in our own community. If agencies wait until there's a crisis to build a relationship with their community, it's too late. And that's one thing that Mesa Police Department gets right. They've been developing a relationship with our very diverse communities for years, and this is a testament to the work that they've done. It's easy to talk about what should be done to improve relationships with the community. It's another thing to actually think and examine and study and analyze what is being done and what needs to be done. And that's something that we have not seen across the country, unfortunately. Lots of flippant comments, and you'll see activists all across the spectrum giving lots of flippant suggestions. It's another thing to methodically think about what is being done and what should be done. And that's something that Mesa Police Department has taken to heart, and they've done well. And again, this isn't something that has happened as a last-minute reaction to one incident or another. It's a reflection of years of work developing trust with very diverse communities. So again, I want to applaud their efforts. I have full confidence that this kind of relationship will continue. And again, a big thank you to the chief and his team. And it's not just a singular person that has led this effort. It really is a departmental response. And to put the appropriate people in place who can continue that positive working relationship with the community is something that they've gotten right and that we hope will continue. So thank you very much for having us here today.
You know, I started in this business 30 years ago, and we were talking earlier on, when I started 30 years ago, I felt our community trusted us, this police department. And if you look at that trust and transparency across the country, if we had trust before, we can get it back. And that's really what we need to strive for, is continue to build that trust with our community. And I'm so glad to see some of our community members that we worked so hard to build sincere, true relationships, because that's what it's about. That is how we're going to fix this. And I applaud all of you for being here today. And we'll open it up to any questions that you may have.